let's make some predictions. And we'll start off
Yeah.
talking about Shapen a little bit, some statistical stuff. So
Okay.
we're going to assume Shapen is your guy throughout the year. And this first one, I guess,
Mhm.
doesn't even hinge on him playing the whole season. But I won't go full total passing yards for the year. I'll do yards per game just because there is a chance he might miss some time. We don't know whether or not State's going to get to a bowl game or not, so we won't include that in here. Let's do an over-under. Over-under per game, 245 passing yards for Blake Shapen. Do we think he finishes more than that per game, or does he finish under that?
Mm. Oh, that would have been per game. Ooh. I think I think he could come close. I'm gonna go under. Well, actually, we're talking about if Shapen's completely healthy out there, right? Like, assuming nothing goes wrong for him, health
Yeah,
wise.
and I guess you do have to assume health a little bit because if he's healthy enough to play but isn't fully there, how much are you going to be able to rely on him? That would be a question. But obviously, if you go, by yards per game, even if you only played one game, he finishes with 300 yards passing. Well, then he finished north of it. But we'll assume over the course, if he plays a whole year, does he average 240? Well, yeah, full year, does he average 245 passing yards per game?
I want to be right on these, but I don't want to like come off sounding like a homer or something, man. Like, I mean, I would love to see over, but my gut says to go under, but not completely under.
So you're taking under.
Yeah, nah, I'm gonna go over, man. I'm too high on these receivers for what they have this year. I gotta go over here. I think with Shapen being back, he's talked a lot this offseason, and you've mentioned before about how he's just trying to make sure his arm is stronger, that he's healthy, that he's all ready to go. It's been his shoulder, all that stuff. He wants to be the leader for Mississippi State. I think he is the leader for Mississippi State. Plus, you bring in some guys. You talk about Anthony Evans, and we'll talk about receivers soon. But I mean, Jordan Mosley or Brennan Thompson. I mean, you could make a case for a lot of those guys to have a breakout year. We'll talk about that soon, but I gotta believe he's going over 245 a game, man. Even if it's not quite 300 and he averages somewhere around 245, I gotta believe in it, man.
So I've heard a lot of people who've gone lower on him not having a ton of yards per game because they think State's going to run the ball a lot. They think that, and they also look at nationally within the SEC. There really were not a lot of. I think there were only a couple quarterbacks in the SEC that passed for 245 plus yards a game. It was only like two or three guys last year. I'm going over.
Yeah.
Jeff Lebby last year was the first time in his career where his passing offense did not produce at least 250 yards a game. It was the first time in his career as a play caller that he did not have a quarterback averaging 250 plus yards a game passing. So
Yeah.
right away, I think he is going to get back in line with what we have typically seen with Jeff Lebby offenses. Secondly, and I predicted this last season that I thought State would have some pretty lofty passing totals because of the talent at receiver and with Shapen stepping in. I kind of predicted State was going to have to be in a lot of shootouts. And while this is an offense that can be in a shootout while still running the football a lot, they probably are going to have to throw the ball quite a bit in order to get those points. So I think you're going to see. I also think you're going to be more consistently hitting the explosive plays in the passing game. So I'm going to go over this number. I don't think it's a crazy amount to ask for. I think Shapen can have a big year. And yeah, I think he'll end up finishing with over the total that I have set 245 passing yards a game. I think Shapen's going to have a really nice year as a passer. How about
Yeah.
touchdowns, though? We're going to set 23 and a half passing touchdowns for Blake Shapen, over or under.
23 and a half. Mhm. Oh man, that one I could see there being some trouble because it's one thing if you can air the ball out deep. It's another story if you're going to be a team that's going to score a lot of points. I still don't know if State's ready to do that this year. I mean, I could see improvement where they up their points per game and stuff, but uh, just barely. I'm going to take the under. Um, I don't know. My gut's saying to take the under, man. I mean, I could see the passing yardage going over, but the passing touchdowns I know can be a different story depending on who you're talking about here.
I will also go. I think it's a good line because I think it's going to be pretty close to. I think it could be like 23-24. I will
Right.
also conservatively go under, just because while I do think they're going to have to throw it a little bit more, I see this being a situation where most of the passing touchdowns are going to be big plays down the field.
Yeah.
Whereas if they get in closer to the red zone, I do think that's where they're going to want to be able to punch it in and run the football a little bit more.
True.
That would take some passing opportunities off the board. And that's not to say they won't throw in the red zone. They definitely will some. But I could see that number being a little bit lower, even if Shapen has a big year overall through the air. So I'll go, I think, just barely under. I think he's going to be around 23 touchdowns for the season. I'll set that as my number. So I'll
That's
also
a
take the
good
under.
that is a good number though, man, because that's almost right on the money with like 23, 24. I mean, if he could hit the over, that'd be amazing to see. But like like you and I said, and especially what you were saying about leaning heavy on the run game and stuff, it's I mean, best bets, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
So sticking with the passing game, who do we think
Hmm.
leads this team in receiving? I know you went through a couple guys a second ago. You got a
Yeah.
brand new receiving core largely, got a lot of options. Who ends up as the leading receiver on this team?
Boldly go with Brennan Thompson this year. Um, He's just very experienced. Last year, he had 19 receptions for 230 yards even. He had 2 touchdowns receiving. Um, but I think, by the way, we are talking in yardage here with leading receiver, right? Or are you talking touchdowns? Because if it's touchdowns, it's a different story. But I think if you're talking yardage, I don't see why it's not going to be Brendan Thompson this year.
Man, you can go a lot of. I'll just say yardage, blankly yardage is what we'll go with.
Okay.
You can go catches, you can go yards. I wouldn't go touchdowns, but we'll say yardage.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm sticking with Brendan Thompson.
yeah. Look, Thompson is getting a lot of play this offseason. I mean, like you said, was not overly productive at Oklahoma a season ago, but 2 years ago with Levy as his play caller, was actually going to put up. Had he played the whole year, had he been fully healthy, probably would have had a really nice year. And what Levy says is that if you watch him last year, he felt like he was open quite a bit, and they just didn't get him the football. My only concern with him as the leader is I do kind of wonder, is he going to be more than just a deep threat for them? And that is something that I kind of like. But at the time, every pass he catches is probably going to be 20 plus yards down the field. So that could open up some opportunities for him for sure. Man, the popular answer has been Anthony Evans. That's kind of who everyone
Mhm.
has gone with because he's the slot receiver, and Levy's leading receiver tends to be the slot receiver, and he's the starting guy. He just has so little production in his career. I have a hard time with it, man. I will take Anthony Evans just because I'm just banking on he is the starting receiver at a position that Levy tends to force feed. And I will say that, and I talked about this earlier in the offseason, the fact that Blake Shapen mentioned Anthony Evans by name as a guy that he expected to have a big year does suggest to me there's a legit connection there, and that those two are going to be linking up quite a bit. So I will take Anthony Evans to be the leader receiver on the team, but I think you go a lot of different ways here. This is kind of the concern is I don't know if they've got that true guy on the team that is like the alpha you
Yeah.
trust to go to, and that gives me some questions. Who's going to lead this team in
It
rushing? They got a great stable of running backs, a lot of talent
Mm,
back there. We think a lot of guys are going to get involved, but who ultimately ends up being the leading rusher? And we're going by yardage.
my yardage. I I think it's almost a coin flip between Bothwell and Booth. I think it's almost a coin flip, but I feel like Fluff Bothwell, man, has just been really talked about this offseason. I thought he was great at South Alabama a couple years ago. Um, last year even was really, really good. 832 yards, 13 touchdowns on the ground off 111 carries, and he averaged about 7.5 yards a carry, which might not seem like much, but
That seems like a lot.
I mean,
That's a
it,
lot.
it really does. Well, someone might look at it and be like, "Oh, it's only 7.5 yards." Well, running the football is not all that easy when you're in pads and stuff, and you got five 300-pound guys coming at you. But anyway, no, Fluff is my take here to be the leading rusher. I think you could make a case for Devon Booth, but I'm really high on what Fluff could bring to the table.
I'm going to take the other side of that coin, and I will say Devon Booth. I
Okay.
just think his explosive style. I like the way he played down the stretch last season. His explosive style as a tailback. There is a case to be made that sometimes it was a little bit, explosive player bust with him. Either he was going to break off a 30-yard run or it was going to be a 2-yard gain. You need to see a little bit more consistency, but that also comes down to the guys blocking in front of him. And I think that's going to be better up front. I think he's going to be kind of the lead guy. I guess the only question would be if he gets more touches as a receiver, because he's very talented doing that as well. And he's going to get more rushes than receptions for sure. I just mean compared to the other backs, could there be more situations where they choose to throw to him while he's on the field as opposed to standing it off? But
Mm-hmm.
I think Bothwell will kind of be more of the short yardage type guy who comes in to really move the change in those spots. So I think if you're asking me who leads in touchdowns, I'm going to say Bothwell. But I think Devon Booth is going to be your leader in rushing yardage. I feel
Okay.
decent about that. Who's going to be the newcomer of the offense? And we can go a transfer. We can go with the freshman who's stepping in, who we haven't really seen yet. Who do you think is going to be the newcomer for the Bulldog offense that has the big breakout year?
Without hesitation, like I'm going Anthony Evans from Georgia. I know. Look, I don't know how Georgia fans feel about him. I don't know much of like was he injury prone or anything, but he did see some playing time at Georgia. He had last year for Georgia 17 returns on punts for 129 yards. I've watched some highlights on him in recent weeks just to kind of get an idea of what the state's going to be getting out of him. And he really does have a lot of great speed. I think, especially in special teams, he could play a really good factor. I've heard that he's also been returning punts this offseason. I don't know how much you've heard on that, Andrew, but I really think he's going to be a game changer as far as a transfer. I didn't really come up with a freshman. I mean, I guess if we're
We'll
coming
get
up
there in
with
a sec.
one, I would go there. But yeah, yeah.
Well, you didn't have to pick a freshman. No, it just was like
No, I got you.
um. I'll do a guy we talked about just a second ago, and I'll say Bothwell. Even though I
Hmm.
think Booth is going to be the leading rusher, I already said I think Bothwell probably leads in rushing touchdowns. He's going to get plenty of touches. Just a big time physical talent who I think is going to be a massive difference maker. And the fact that I know I picked Evans as my leading receiver, but I've got kind of the questions in the receiving core of who are we really going to be relying on. I know Fluff Bothwell stepping in and is going to have a good year for Mississippi State. So I think that's going to be the newcomer of the Bulldog offense. Who is a breakout star? And I guess you could go with the transfer, but I guess we're looking mostly more like guys who are on the team that could take a step forward this year and be making a big impact. Who'd you take as the breakout player of the Bulldog offense?
I'm curious to see. And again, I don't have like the whole offensive line memorized, but they had recruited a guy named Jimothy Lewis, if I'm saying that right. Jimothy. He's an offensive tackle. He is a freshman, I believe, a true freshman.
Red shirt,
Built pretty good. He's what's that?
red shirt freshman.
He is a redshirt freshman. Okay. Well, he comes actually from IMG Academy, a big school. So kudos to Mississippi State for going down there to Bradenton, Florida, not too far from me, and picking him up 6'6", 310. We've talked about the offensive line and how you have some guys on that roster that could be put on the field this fall, that will be put on the field this fall. I don't know if he's a guy we've necessarily talked about, but I want to get your thoughts on him, man. I mean, is it possible that we see him see the field? I mean, I've looked him up, I've watched his film and everything. I'm just kind of going bold here and saying a red shirt would probably see some playing time. What do you think?
Well, I mean, he's up to 320 now. So, I mean, he's put on weight with a season within the program. I think, yeah, he's a great choice as a breakout player for sure, because I do think it sounds like throughout fall camp, he's done a good job of competing at that spot at left tackle, and that he has
Mhm.
really cemented himself there. And what the reason that stands out to me specifically, it's not just, you could say, well, yeah, a guy steps in, wins a job. That happens. Left tackle is the most important spot in your offensive line. You need a guy who's a big time athlete there. You need a guy who's a big time player. He has the highest athletic ceiling of any offensive lineman on the team. Being a 4-star recruit coming out of high school, highly rated guy as a prospect. And I don't think it's a case where the job is just falling in his lap. Like, he didn't really win it. It's more the other guys lost it. I think he's winning the job because they have other guys on the team between Albert Reese, Blake Steen, Luke Work. All of those guys have starting experience playing tackle. Luke Work started games for you at left tackle a season ago. If you felt that Jimothy Lewis wasn't ready, you could start any of those other guys. So if we think Jimothy Lewis is stepping in to win the job, that means to me he's earning it, and that gives me a lot of excitement about what he's going to be able to do up front. And I think if you give me that guy is reaching his athletic ceiling and is stepping in to start, I feel pretty good about what that offensive line is going to be able to do. Another guy, man, I'll say I think is in for a big year as a breakout, Seydou Traore at tight end. Ended
Mhm.
up second on the team in catches a year ago, but the yards didn't jump off the page, only got to the end zone once. I think he's going to get utilized in a lot of fun ways this season. I think he's going to be a big-time pass catcher. I think he could be one of the more reliable receiving threats on the team. I wouldn't be shocked if he's a guy on third down they're looking to get the football to. So that's someone else I would go to as a breakout guy for sure. I mean, who do you got as the MVP of the offense?
I would go MVP for the offense. Couple different good choices. I put Anthony Evans. I'm really high on what he could bring to this offense this year, and think that he, having played at Georgia, even if he didn't get all the time in the world that he probably wanted to, I think he learned from some of the best, and I feel like his leadership and everything could contribute. And special teams offense. However, I just think he's going to be a big difference maker for the Bulldogs.
I'll go with Devon Booth. And I know I'm kind of going back and forth. I had Booth as my leading rusher, but then I talk about Bothwell as my breakout guy. I think those guys are going to both play a ton, but I think Devon Booth is just going to be such a dynamic player for State. I think he's so impactful both as a rusher, as a guy to the backfield, as a guy in the return game, as a kick returner. I think he gets involved in a lot of different ways. I think he has a massive year, and I think Devon Booth is going to be a really special player for the Bulldogs. And
For
that'd be my
sure.
MVP of the offense. Even though Blake Shapen at quarterback, I still think is going to have a really nice year. Couple last over unders to finish talking about the offense. Over under 425 total yards per game.
As much as I love the offense improving this year, well, 425 yards per game. And that's like, I mean, that is counting rushing and passing there, right? Like, we're
Yeah,
talking they move the ball 425 yards. I could see it. I could go right on the money or a little bit over. I think they could do it. The question is with scoring and stuff, but I could see this offense really amped up and ready to go.
yeah, I'm going to also go over because, like I said, I think Blake Shapen's going to have a really nice year as a passer. I also think they're going to run the ball a lot as well. And it doesn't have to be either or. Like, I think they're going to run more plays, and you're going to see
Mhm.
a lot more snaps this year, which will allow them to both run more and pass more. So I'll go over that number. Finally, for the offense, over under 29.5 points per game. Basically, do you think this is a team that puts 30 plus on the board consistently, or are they below that?
I'm pretty optimistic here. I'm gonna go over. Even if it's like 31 or 30, like you're still hitting that over. And it's probably not gonna be every single game, but there are going to be games where you see them compete, you see them get better each week. And yeah, I mean, they're gonna face some interesting teams, some defenses like Texas or whoever, but this is a team that I think wants to score. I think they put emphasis on scoring and getting guys the football and making big plays downfield. I'm going to go over.
I'm going to go under, even though I do think the yards will be there. I definitely think they might not always result in the points, kind of similar to what we talked about with the passing. Um, I just think in the non-con they're going to have some really big games, but I worry about some of the conference games they play. I just know
Yeah.
going through a lot of those games, man, it was like how many times I'm like, man, that defense, and it's just going to give them problems. So that defense has such a massive talent advantage. So I'll go under. I think it's going to be improved. I mean, they were at 25. I mean, you know what? No, I'm going over. I'm changing my pick because I'm sitting here
Yes.
like, well, they
Yes.
averaged at 25 or so a year ago, and it's like
Right.
adding another 5 points a game. I don't think is that crazy, especially if like last year they had a non-conference game against Toledo where they completely wasted an opportunity that they would normally put a bunch of points on the board. They had so many drives that stalled out of the red zone where they should have put touchdowns on the board and didn't. And I think they're going to convert on those opportunities. Yes, this team puts at least 30 points per game on the
The
board.
thing is, too, is like you just said, they had the opportunity last year. And if they are better than 2-10, Andrew, and if they are better than what they were last year all the way around, and even if they take a small step forward, why would you not make that over? You know, like, why would you not take that? So I'm glad
and
we agree there last minute.
30 points per game in college is not a lot to begin with. So I definitely think
It's
they're there.
not right.
Okay, so we've set our expectation for the offense. We think the offense end up going to having a pretty good year.